20 years, people told me I was paranoid. Because things around me kept exploding for no reason. I was ready to believe I was insane, until one hidden camera revealed something that should not exist. The sound of shattering glass is the soundtrack of my life. I froze in the middle of the living room, staring at the shards of Dad's favorite vase. Another one. My hands were shaking, but I didn't even remember touching it. I was just walking by. That was the essence of the Ellis curse. I was a walking disaster. Mom rushed into the room, saw the pieces, and made that sound. A mix of disappointment and exhaustion that made me want to vanish. Again, Ellis? We asked you not to go near the fireplace. I started apologizing, the words coming out automatically. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, I didn't see it. But in their eyes, I already saw the verdict. I am the problem. I am chaos. My older sister, Tana, stood in the doorway, arms crossed. Perfect posture, perfect life. She just shook her head, as if saying, hopeless. At that moment, I truly believed there was something wrong with me on a genetic level. I didn't know this was the beginning of the end of my lie. I remember my childhood as a minefield. I wasn't allowed to touch the china. I wasn't let near important documents. If something went missing, the question, who did it, was never asked. Everyone turned to me. Father, Kian, was an architect obsessed with order. His office was a sanctuary. I was strictly forbidden from crossing the threshold. But strangely, things broke even where I wasn't present. You probably ran past and caused a vibration, Tana would say. And I believed it. I started walking on tiptoes. I stopped using hand gestures. I turned into a shadow in my own house, afraid to breathe lest I bring down the ceiling. Tana was my opposite. A successful lawyer, the family pride, a rock. She often saved me, helping sweep up the shards, whispering, it's okay, Ellis, you're just special. I mistook her pity for love. I didn't understand that her kindness was just as sharp as those shards on the floor. The situation escalated a week before Dad's Jubilee. He was preparing the presentation of his life, a city park project. The model stood in his office, covered with a cloth. The atmosphere in the house was tight as a string. We were told, breathe sparingly. I tried not to leave my room at all. I ate dry crackers to avoid rattling dishes in the kitchen. Tana came over every evening to help Dad with paperwork. I heard their laughter, their discussions. I felt like an outcast, but I convinced myself it was for the greater good. If I stay away, the world is safe. One night I woke up to a strange sound. A creaking floorboard. A rustle. I thought it was just our old house settling. I rolled over, pulled up the blanket, and forced myself to sleep. That was my mistake. If I had walked into the hallway then, I would have seen something that could have saved me years of therapy. But I stayed in bed, letting the Ellis curse happen without me. The morning started with a scream. Not just a loud voice, but a primal howl from Father. I rushed into the hallway, heart pounding in my throat. The office door was wide open. I peeked inside and felt the ground drop out from under me. The model was destroyed. Someone had spilled a cup of black coffee on it, and the fragile paper trees had turned into a dirty mush. But that wasn't the worst part. On the desk, right next to the puddle, lay my bracelet. The cheap woven bracelet I only took off at night. I grabbed my wrist, it was gone. All eyes turned to me. I was asleep, I whispered. I didn't come in here. Father was silent, his face crimson. Tana walked to the desk, picked up the bracelet with 2 fingers like evidence, and said quietly, Ellis, you must have been sleepwalking. Again. The word, again, hit me harder than a slap. I never sleepwalked. Or did I? Reality started to blur. A family trial followed. I sat on the couch, curled into a ball. Parents discussed whether to send me to a clinic or just change the locks on all doors. She is dangerous to herself and others, Father said, not looking at me. I cried, but tears only annoyed them. Tana sat nearby, stroking my shoulder, telling our parents, don't be so harsh. She doesn't control it. She has mental issues. It sounded like defense, but in reality, it was confirming my diagnosis. I started doubting my own memory. Maybe I really am a sleepwalker? Maybe a second personality lives inside me that hates architecture? I felt such guilt I was ready to sign a confession for the Kennedy assassination just to make them stop looking at me with that squeamish horror. Eventually, I was forgiven, but with a condition. I pay for the model's restoration from my college savings. I agreed. I would have given anything. After the coffee incident, I decided to isolate myself completely. I turned my room into a bunker. The only thing I lacked was living warmth. I convinced my parents to let me get a cat. Only if it doesn't leave your room, father barked. I named him Moss. He was a lazy ginger lump who slept 20 hours a day. To prove to my parents that the cat wouldn't ruin anything, and that I could cope, I bought a cheap webcam with a motion sensor. I wanted to record funny videos for TikTok to socialize online somehow. I set the camera on a shelf, pointing it at the door and bed. I didn't plan to spy. I just wanted to film the cat. But technology is indifferent to intentions. The camera started recording everything that happened in the room when I was gone or asleep. That tiny lens became the sole witness to my innocence. A week passed. The house was quiet. I almost believed the curse had receded. But one evening, while I was in the shower, I heard a crash from my room. I ran out, wrapped in a towel. My laptop lay on the floor. The screen was shattered to pieces. Moss sat nearby, licking his paw. Tana stood in the doorway, leaning against the frame. "Oh, Ellis," she sighed. "Your cat is just as clumsy as you. I came to call you for dinner," and he jumped in. She spread her hands. I looked at the laptop. All my coursework was there. All my photos. "He never jumps on the desk," I said quietly. "There's a first time for everything." Tana snapped and walked away. I sat on the floor next to the broken tech. Moss purred. I felt despair boiling inside. But then I remembered. The camera. It was running. The motion sensor should have triggered. My hands shook so hard I could barely remove the memory card. I inserted it into an old tablet. My heart hammered. I found the file timestamps from 10 minutes ago. Hit play. The video shows an empty room. Moss is sleeping on the bed. The door opens. Tana walks in. She doesn't call me for dinner. She silently scans the room. She sees the laptop on the desk. Her face, it was blank. Cold. She walked to the desk, picked up the laptop, and just hurled it to the floor. With force. Moss flinched and woke up. Tana looked at him, smirked, and kicked him toward the broken screen so he'd be at the crime scene. Then she stood in the doorway waiting for me to exit the shower. The video ended. I sat there, not breathing. It wasn't an accident. It was a setup. My sister deliberately destroyed my property and framed the cat. The world around me tilted. First reaction was to run to my parents. But something stopped me. I remembered the coffee incident. And the vase. And the bracelet. If she did this now, could it be she always did? I started reviewing old files on the memory card. The camera was on loop recording, but the card was large, and data from the last 2 weeks remained. I scrolled back, day by day. Here I am sleeping. Here is Moss eating. Nothing unusual. And then I stumbled upon the recording from that very night before Dad's Jubilee. The sleepwalking night. I stared at the screen, wanting to scream, but my throat seized up. In the video, at 3 a.m., my room door opens. Tana enters. In her hands is my bracelet. She walks to my bed while I sleep and carefully takes it off the nightstand. No, she puts it in her pocket. Then she walks up to me, leans in, and whispers something. I rewound, turned up the volume. On the recording, Tana leans over my sleeping face and whispers, "You are nothing, Ellis. You will ruin everything." Then she leaves the room. 20 minutes later, she returns. Without the bracelet. But there are black stains on her hands. Ink? Coffee? She goes into the bathroom, connected to my room, washes her hands, wipes them on my towel. Then she walks over to me and wipes a dirty hand on my pajamas. Leaving marks. Evidence. She was scripting a scene. I didn't sleepwalk. I was dead to the world. She took the bracelet, went to the office, destroyed the model, left the bracelet there, and came back to stain me. This wasn't just vandalism. It was psychological warfare. She was systematically driving me insane, making me believe I was sick. Why? To be the only good daughter? To control the inheritance? Or did she just enjoy watching me suffer? I kept watching. Other days. Other small things. Here Tana comes in when I'm gone and cuts the strap of my bag. The next day the bag snaps in a public place. Everyone laughs. Here she resets my alarm so I'd be late. Here she hides important college letters under the bed. It was a chronicle of hate. Every failure of mine, every bit of clumsiness, was directed by her. I felt a weight lifting off me. I am not defective. I am not cursed. I am the victim of a sadist living in the next room. Fear was replaced by cold fury. I copied all videos to the cloud. Then to a flash drive. Then sent it to a friend. I made 3 backups. I knew if I showed this to my parents now, Tana would spin it. She's a lawyer. She'd say it's edited, or she was checking something. I needed to act smarter. I needed to catch her publicly. In the evening, there was a family dinner. Tana sat opposite, glowing and kind. How's your laptop, sweetie? Dad can take a look, but you know repairs cost money. Parents nodded. Ellis, you need to be more responsible, father added. I looked at Tana. She smiled, cutting a piece of steak. I smiled back. For the first time in years, I didn't lower my eyes. You're right, Tana, I said with a steady voice. I really need to figure out why things around me break. So I decided to show you a video. I pulled out the tablet and placed it in the center of the table. Tana froze. Her fork paused halfway to her mouth. What is this? Father asked. Just watch, I said and hit play. The screen showed Tana hurling my laptop. Then Tana stealing the bracelet. Then Tana staining my pajamas. The silence at the table was deafening. The only sounds were the clock ticking and Moss crunching food in the next room. Tana's face went pale, then blotchy red. She jumped up. This is a deepfake. She faked it. You know she's crazy. She screamed, losing her vaunted composure. Father slowly looked up from the screen. There was no anger at me in his gaze. There was horror. He looked at his perfect daughter as if seeing a monster. Tana, he said quietly. There's a date and time. And that's my shirt you borrowed last week. Mother covered her mouth with her hand, tears streaming down her cheeks. Why? Was all she could choke out. Tana realized the mask was off. Her face twisted into a grimace of pure malice. Because she's pathetic. You always coddled her, poor Ellis, loser Ellis. I wanted to show you she is trash. That she doesn't deserve your pity. She screamed these obscenities, and with every word, I felt stronger. Her words didn't hurt anymore. They were a confession. That night Tana left. Parents didn't kick her out, but the atmosphere changed forever. They tried to apologize to me, offered money, therapy, a new car. But I looked at them and realized, they were guilty too. They allowed this to happen. They so easily believed I was defective, that they didn't even try to investigate. I packed my bags 2 days later. I took Moss, the camera, and my documents. I moved into a tiny apartment across town. Now, when I drop something, which is rare, I don't panic. I just pick it up. I am not cursed. I am not a destroyer. I am just a human who survived a house full of mirrors and lies. And you know what? My laptop works fine. And vases in my house stand for years. I was never the problem. The family was. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to the channel, like it, and click on the bell so you don't miss any more stories. See you soon.